Tom Bodett likes to think of himself as just an ordinary guy blessed with extraordinary luck. Set to go?
Yeah. Let's hope so.
He lives in Homer with wife Debbie and 2-year-old son Courtney. 3 years ago, he was a struggling building contractor with both time and bills on his hands.
I know, I built probably 30, 40 houses over the last 8 years. And we moved up to Homer here from Petersburg about 5 years ago, and I never really did get the business back off the ground the way I was used to down in Petersburg. We had a pretty nice clientele. So I started to lose interest. It wasn't paying as well as it should. And decided that, what the heck, maybe I'll try this writing business again, because that's what I studied for in school. And
well, you did, huh?
Oh, I always had a dream in the back of my head someday I'd write. I always thought if I ever fell off the roof, broke my neck, that I'd be able to make a living at a typewriter somewhere.
In 1984, Tom Bodett wrote an account about his futile attempts to quit smoking. It was laced with his own brand of homespun wit and wisdom, which somehow adds significant dimension and substance to what seems at first perhaps a rather trivial matter. An Anchorage paper printed it.
The first piece I ever sent out after, like say, 10 years without writing, the Daily News printed it. And I thought, well, that was easy, you know.
The Homer Public Radio station asked him to record weekly essays.
What in the heck would I write about? Eileen Hughes down here at KBBI, she says, well, just write about whatever's going on in your life at the time. You know, what happened to you this week? And, well, you know, I had my dog castrated. She says, well, that sounds like fun. Why don't you try that? So I did.
Tom soon found himself a regular contributor to National Public Radio's news program, All Things Considered.
I sent them an audition tape, the intention of it being an audition tape, and they played the first piece on the tape the day they got it. And it was about 3 weeks later that there's an editor at Addison Wesley named Bob Lavelle who listened to All Things Considered on his way back, going home from work, heard a few of these things. I was doing it every week then, and decided that something like that might work well as a book. And so I get this phone call, and away we go. So I'm sitting here, you know, with a nail bag on, talking on the phone, thinking, what in the hell's going on down here?
A book contract followed, a collection of musings about life in this unique little community entitled, As Far as You Can Go Without a Passport. Suddenly, Tom Bodett was something of a national celebrity.
So in 6 months, I went from not even owning a decent typewriter to a book contract, and I have no idea to this day why that happened.
I do. Tom has an uncanny ability to turn everyday happenings into memorable moments.
There was a piece that's in the first book called Private Pains, and that aired on All Things Considered there on National Public Radio a couple years ago. And the mail from that piece just aired in, and what it was about was one day I was driving through Homer and just passed this lady that was stopped in her car at a stop sign. She was crying, just to herself. Well, the damnedest thing happened while I was driving down Pioneer Avenue last week. I was passing an intersection and noticed a middle-aged lady stopped in her car waiting to enter the road. There was nothing remarkable about the car, but I happened to look at just the right time and saw she was crying. Her cheeks were wet and her mouth was sort of twisted in that sorrowful half-smile people sometimes get when they cry. She didn't seem to be in any kind of predicament, and I'd never seen her before. So I did what we usually do when we see people crying. I looked away and drove on. Well, I kept thinking about it as I drove down the road. What could have driven this woman to tears in the middle of the day while waiting at a stop sign? Well, maybe she'd just gotten some terrible news about something. Maybe a parent had died or her husband left her. Perhaps our lives are made up of real mundane little things, shopping for groceries, fixing your car, doing the laundry. These are the things that make up our lives, and at times we get bored with that and maybe a little disappointed that our lives aren't more interesting. But they are really interesting. That stuff is incredibly interesting if you really take it apart and see how funny some of it is and how tragic it is. I think you can find as much pain and suffering down at the supermarket as you could on a battlefield. I had a brief vision of opening her car door and holding her, telling her it'd be all right, but I knew I'd never do that and probably get arrested if I did. That was the gist of the piece, and I got so much mail from that, a lot of them from women, saying it could have been me in that car, or I hope that the next time that does happen to me, that there's someone like yourself that sees it and passes a word or a thought of kindness my way. Seems we spend so much time torturing each other to get to the head of the line or maneuver into that last parking space. Maybe we should forget about all that stuff every once in a while and just keep our eyes peeled for the tears of a stranger. It's so gratifying to think that you can actually share a moment like that with people that it makes you feel like you're actually doing something, even though I know better.
Evidently, Tom's impact was being felt. A national motel chain hired him to deliver their radio commercials.
Hi, Tom Bodett from Motel 6 with a message for the traveling guy.
In the distinctive Bodett style, of course.
We have 400 locations from coast to coast, and we operate every one of them, so they're always clean and comfortable. Well, now then, with the money you save, why don't you find a steakhouse and order that big old ribeye you always wanted, or make it a T-bone, you know what I mean. Get 2 baked potatoes and a slice of pie, then tip the waiter right and walk out of there feeling like a big shot. But that's what you are, buddy, and some of us recognize that. I'm Tom Bodett for Motel 6. Have a good trip. It's not some character I've developed. When I started this out, I was writing like I would talk to you over a beer down at the saloon, and it was a natural cadence for me. It was my natural everyday vernacular I was using. In fact, a word like vernacular really isn't in my vernacular, but we're trying to impress people here. So
You, curiously enough, have much more national renown than you apparently do in Alaska, and I think that's unique. What do you attribute that?
Well, I don't think Alaskans are as impressed with the fact that I'm living in Alaska as the readers outside. They hear this voice from Alaska on the radio or read something in a book or that, and everyone's real curious about Alaska. Well, of course, we don't care. We're all here. So that might be the reason, and I kind of like it that way. I'd rather have it out there to be somebody than to be a big mouth around my own state.
Retain a little of your own privacy, so to speak.
I just want to be a regular guy here.
Tom's second book, Small Comforts, was just released nationally. And I wondered if writer's block had ever reared its ugly head on one of those late nights in the work shed.
Building, you just go to work and then you get it done. I mean, there's nothing to dink around with there, you know. It's just like, well, this needs to be put there and nailed down. But writing is a whole different thing. You can goof around forever and wait for a solid idea to come. And I found this quote by E.L. Doctorow that I keep right up there above my machine. It says, writing is like driving at night. You can see only as far as the headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. So when I'm sitting here with the little beads of sweat forming on my brow and it's 6 hours to deadline, I just write something down and, okay, there's my headlights. And now I can see that much further and I take the next thing. And pretty soon you'll get something rolling.
As one who frequently flips on his less than state-of-the-art mental word processor, only to find the screen blank, I have much admiration for those verbal alchemists with the ability to gold-plate the coffee grounds, banana peels, and eggshells of everyday life and burnish them into jewels of rare luster. Such a writer is Tom Bodett.
They got something for everybody nowadays. Seminars for the ill-dressed, therapy groups for the ill-at-ease, clinics for the drugged and drinking, and fat farms for the obese. But there's one social problem that I find no one addressing: growing a new beard. How about a beard ranch? A place where guys will come on up. That's about all we do here. Sign up for one of our environment trash and weekend package tours. We got lots of environment. Bring your own trash or use ours. No extra charge. Endangered species, my eye.
I think everybody that I've known, of course, and especially my friends, are just real happy that all this has happened for me. Oh, sometimes they give me a little flack down at the lumber yard, you know, here comes the speaking deacon, you know, and this guy, that take a little ribbon, but I think in a way they all thought it was pretty neat. I'm not very popular in writers' circles. I can't affect this persecuted slouch when I need to get into the right clubs, but struggling writers don't like to hear my story at all. So I try to make something up to please them, you know.
In his first book, Tom wrote, "Alaska is one of the sanest places in the world. At once demanding and acceptant. always irreverent, and seldom monotonous. A place where I'm proud to live, full of people I'm proud to know. I'd like to tell you I have nothing but admiration and respect for Tom's ability, but that wouldn't be true. Overshadowing both, I must confess, is craven envy.